Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh. Welcome to Reboot Punjab Women's Empowerment Show. My name is Panesar. I am a Sevadar of the Kalgidhar Trust SAHIB, and we've got an amazing show for you today where we'll be talking about women empowerment with two exceptional guest speakers. We'll also be talking to you about the Train the Teacher program, which is an initiative offered by the Kalgidhar Trust SAHIB at Eternal University, where you can help underprivileged women in northern India become educated, and also how you can help underprivileged children in girl academies. But firstly, I just wanted to thank all of the Sangat who are always supporting the trust mission. I just wanted to say a huge thank you to everybody who always watches the shows, who have constantly been sponsoring to the Train the Teacher program for education and for always donating. So just firstly wanted to say thank you to all the Sangat who are always supporting us. It's a big thank you to you. So thank you. So now I wanted to introduce our guests today, and it's my biggest honour and pleasure to introduce two amazing sisters who happen to be identical twins. They've received many awards for their work. In 2009, they were made honorary citizens of Liverpool. In 2011, they received an MBE from the Queen. In 2015, they were awarded honorary doctorates of fine arts by the University of Chester. In 2019, they won the UK Achievers Award and the Eastern Eye Arts and Theatres Award. In 2019, they were awarded honorary doctorate letters from the University of Liverpool. And in 2020, they were awarded the degrees of Doctor by Arts by Wolverhampton. And they've also got amazing academics in comparative religion. So I wanted to give a big warm welcome to the Singh twins. Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh. Welcome to the show, Benjis.
Thank you. It's lovely to be on the show. Thank you for being interested to connect with us. We're looking forward to talking to you and hearing all about your wonderful work that you're doing in India as well.
Yeah, thank you. It's really nice to meet you both. And firstly, from the Kalgidhar Trust side, we wanted to congratulate you for your amazing work that you've done, and absolutely incredible. So well done to you both, Benji.
Thank you.
Benji. Yeah. So Benji's, firstly, I wanted to ask you both, how does it feel to have won such amazing awards and be known as the only Sikh females to become internationally renowned artists? How does it feel, Benji's?
Well, it feels wonderful, but we do have to set the record straight to some degree, because I don't know that we're the only female Sikh artists who've had an international reputation. We're following in some good footsteps, the likes of Amrita Gill, historically, who is known as the mother of contemporary Indian art, and she was very prolific during the 30s, the early 20th century, and contemporaries like Kaur, who again has made great waves in the international contemporary art scene. But it's brilliant to be representing our gender and our community through the arts, the practice of arts that we do, because I think it's a field that's not always recognised within our community, and certainly it's a field internationally that's not always given credit to women as well.
Yeah, it's absolutely amazing, Benji, is that, you have achieved so much. It's such an incredible thing to see as well. And so, yeah, well done to you both. It's incredible. And I know a lot of people are fascinated that you are both twins and you're both identical twins. How have you always been passionate about art? Is it something that you always wanted to do when you're younger? If you could tell us about your background and how you actually got involved in the arts, that would be fantastic.
Yeah, well, yes, I guess we've always been scribbling on something or other ever since you can remember. We used to scribble in, my father will tell you that we used to scribble on the walls and in books, unfortunately, but then he started providing us with paper and pens and felt tips. And I think it's always been, from our earliest memories, our pastime, in between schoolwork or in the holidays. And I have to say, although we had a passion for it from the age of dot, we didn't really consider becoming artists until much later on. In fact, we, as you mentioned, part of our background is having an academic degree, and part of that was in comparative religion and ecclesiastical history and early 20th century art history. And at that point, we had no intention to become artists whatsoever. It was really, I guess, it was reaction against prejudice we faced actually within the art department during our first BA honours degree. And the type of work that we were cultivating at that time was very much inspired by our own heritage, our kind of broadest Indian heritage, the Indian miniature tradition of painting. And we were studying on this 20th century Western art history course, and the tutors didn't take very well to the fact that we were being inspired by a non-European art form. In fact, they told us in not so many words that it was backward and outdated and had no place within contemporary art expression. So, we really wanted to challenge that. Our art became a tool, a political tool, if you like, to challenge that kind of Eurocentric prejudice that we face, this idea that West is best and, something's only of value if it's given that Western stamp of approval. Yeah, I think that was the turning point, really, from it being a passion to a political statement. And it's something that really also tied into the prejudice that we'd felt as young Asians growing up in Britain and being expected to conform to Western ways of socialising and thinking, for example. And I'm sure that's an experience that a lot of youngsters within our community have felt, of our generation, but also generations of today. And our artwork really became a way of challenging that too, and basically making a statement about how proud we were of our traditions, and trying to encourage other youngsters, not to be frightened to stand out in the crowd, but to be proud of who they are and to embrace, we're not can't be Western or British or whatever that identity is, but we've always felt that you shouldn't feel pressured or forced by society to be something that is not part of who you naturally, you feel naturally being. Yeah. So a lot of our early work, which started during our days at university, actually dealt with themes to celebrate our Indian identity and our Punjabi culture. So it was, looking at, celebrating the arrangement, traditional Punjabi wedding, and the idea of the extended family, the training ground in which we all learn to give and take and be less selfish and learn those values that we then take out to, the wider society. So from that point onwards, our artwork really, I guess we realised the power of art to be able to communicate ideas and to challenge prejudices that we were facing at that time.
Yeah, it's amazing to understand that you had so many challenges, but you've still both succeeded really well, and that, you had your Punjabi influence as well, because I know a lot of your artwork is, towards Punjabi heritage, which we'll talk about shortly. But I think it's incredible that how you've always both enjoyed art and, you've become a career. It's become a career for you both, which is incredible. I know, Benji, you were telling me about before about your amazing trip to India. If you could tell us a bit more about that, and how was that for you? And I know we're probably coming on to a question now about how it influenced your work as well. But it'd be really good to hear about that journey, that trip when you both were younger.
It was a turning point. It was a life-changing experience. We went to India for the very first time as just turning teenagers, I think, yeah. And our father decided that we would travel to India across land. So he built with his brothers this motorhome, and we all piled in, and we drove across Europe and then through the Middle East, through Pakistan and into India. And we travelled around India for 9 months or so. It was the best part of the year, actually. Missing a year of school, much to the dismay of our teachers, definitely. But it was the best education we could have had, much better than going to school. And it was during that trip, really, that I think we were instilled with that great sense of pride in our heritage. And we're not just talking about our Sikh and Punjabi heritage, which of course is very dear to us, but we identify very much with Indian culture in its broadest sense, and the value system. So, we spent the whole year going around India, stopping at all the historical sites and religious sites, museums, palaces, fortresses, learning all about all the history of India. And we came back to England with a real sense of pride in that identity. I think it's fair to say that prior to that trip to India, of course, we were grown up in a Punjabi family and we are aware of that side of our heritage, but also we grew up in a very Western-dominated society. So, for example, we were the only Asians, let alone Sikhs, in our school that we went to. And so there was that peer pressure there to try and conform and fit into what our friends were, kind of, the way they were dressing and thinking and socialising and all of that. And feeling a slight intimidation with that. But once we'd gone to India and we came back, we were filled with such a sense of pride that nobody from that day onwards was going to make us feel inferior because of our Punjabi identity or Indian identity. So it really was a turning point, actually. And it also introduced us to the Indian miniature painting tradition, which of course has been one of our biggest inspirations in terms of the style of the work that we've adopted throughout our career as artists.
Yeah, it sounds like a really interesting journey. That sounds amazing, Benji. That's something that I think anybody would want to do. It sounds incredible.
That's I recommend it to anyone, actually, really.
Yeah, it sounds great. So Benji, please tell us about your amazing work and all of your artwork, and how were you both influenced to create such incredible paintings? How do these creations become alive? And did you get influenced by anything, or like you mentioned your trip, was that a big influence for you both? And if you can mention some of your paintings as well, that would be great.
Well, our work is inspired by very many influences. Stylistically, we draw on the language of art globally. The symbolism of flowers and animals and nature, for example. It's a very rich language that we draw on. And we draw on traditions, both Eastern and Western. Mostly, I would say, traditional art forms within both Eastern and West. And I think our earliest work was more inspired by our Punjabi Sikh heritage. So we created a body of work quite early on when we were still at university, which was looking at positive aspects of our Punjabi Sikh heritage. And much of that was, I guess, based on our observations and what we'd been taught as part of an extended family about the value of family and community, and also our Sikh teachings about how, we are to live the life of a householder. And the reason being is that the family is seen as this training ground for give, take, sense of duty, mutual responsibility and love, of course, which we learn all those skills and then we apply those to wider society for the benefit of society and the world that we grow up in. And there are works like All Hands on Deck, for example, which shows, different generations of the family preparing the feast for our sister's wedding. There are artworks which look at traditions within Punjabi marriage, so putting henna on our sister's hand, and it's juxtaposed that particular image with a view. It's actually set within a Punjabi household, within the interior of the household, and as I say, it shows various members of the family celebrating this moment in the cultural traditions of our weddings. But there's a view through the window which is looking at a kind of global scene of the effects of Western globalization and the way in which that has been detrimental to the survival of certain traditions and traditional ways of life. And the artwork was really trying to say that we shouldn't really lose sight of our identity and our traditions for the sake of running after what people perceive to be this modern Western lifestyle. We can actually embrace both our Western heritage and our Indian Punjabi Sikh heritage equally and be proud of both traditions as well. And it was very much set against that environment that we grew up in, where very often going to school, for example, with debates about, Indian culture and Western culture, being asked the question of, well, what are you? You come from an Indian family, you're born in Britain. What are you? Are you Indian or are you English? Are you Punjabi or Western? And it was a really ridiculous question, we felt, because we felt we were both. And I think that's the nature of culture, is that so many people are a combination of very many different cultural and religious experiences. And that's what we wanted to reflect through those early works, that we should have a mutual respect for those traditions and we should have the freedom to choose from those traditions what we feel, comfortable with, which we feel expresses our own identity.
Yeah.
And many of our works do directly have a link to our Punjabi and Sikh identity. So, I mean, there are political works, for example, like 1984, which I'm sure many of your viewers might be familiar with. It's probably one of our most well-known artworks, where we are depicting our response really to the Indian government's attack on Harmandir Sahib in 1984. There are artworks where we have studied verses from Sikh scriptures, and we've illustrated them in a very personal way, but drawing upon imagery within, for example, the Adi Granth, where you have a lot of animal and flower symbolism to represent certain concepts, but also drawing on traditions of Sikh art as well through history and some of the conventions and symbolism that's used within that Sikh heritage, and combining that with modern symbolism or symbolism outside of that tradition too. Mm-hmm. And with the historical works, what we always try and do is find a relevance of our own Sikh experience to the wider world. So with the 1984 painting, which depicts the moment that the Sikh army enters into Harmandir Sahib, we show a tank in the foreground of that artwork, which seated on that tank are a single figure of Indira Gandhi, but she has several heads, which represent different leaders of countries around the globe. And that was really making a statement about how that atrocity that was committed against our community was really something that many people around the world could identify with, because essentially it was about political greed and ambition, and how that really impacted on the everyday person, and how innocent people get caught up in that crossfire of sort of politics. There are other works which are purely historical. So we've created portraits of people like Maharaja Dalip Singh, for example, Maharaja Ranjit Singh's son. And many of these works come out of not just our own desire to explore particular themes, but themes that we've been asked or commissioned to create by, British museums and galleries. So this particular piece was commissioned by the National Museums of Scotland, and it was really evolving around some artifacts in their collection which are associated with Maharaja Dalip Singh. And they asked us to look at these artifacts and respond to them from our own Punjabi Sikh point of view. So that was the starting point, and then the portrait kind of evolves around that, and is looking at all sorts of issues around colonial history and empire, and the tragedy of his story, but also the way that he as a figure has come to impact on Sikhs today. He's become a kind of gravitation point for many British Sikhs and even Sikhs abroad who want to learn more about the history of Sikhism, and our Sikh history rather than the history of Sikhism. And they identify with him, particularly, I think, as a figure who crossed over two cultural boundaries. So he's known as, for example, Britain's first resident Sikh, and he was somebody, and his children, of course, who were born in Britain, were people that that we can identify as people of dual heritage. Ourselves being born and brought up in Britain, but having that very strong Sikh Punjabi identity as well. I think a lot of our other work looks outside of our faith as well, but it's very much inspired by our own experiences, our travels, our political interests, things that we get fired up about in the media. Yeah. So I think we very much see our role as artists as social and kind of political commentators. So that it's always important that our work has a message which is universal and that many people can relate to.
Yeah, your paintings are incredible, and I know there's one of Guru Nanak Dev Ji, which is so beautiful. Do you both work together on these paintings, or do you work individually? They must take a long time to create as well.
Yeah, well, we work together in different ways. If there's a single piece, and more often than not, we're working to commission pieces now, which means either an individual or an institution that has wanted to, has invited us to create something for their collection. So that inevitably usually means a single piece of work, in which case we will both want to have an input in that, because we've always seen our practice as a collaboration right from day one. And there's no sense of ownership of my work and her work. It is Singh twins. This is our creation. So we sometimes, if the work is large enough and the deadline is so tight, we often work side by side, literally, painting either side by side or head to toe. Otherwise, we'll work in a rota system. So one of us will start the work and, kind of go off and do some admin work, and the other one will step in and carry on where the other one left off. But there's also a lot of research involved as well. So if there's particularly with the series of works that we do, it's a very large theme. So we share the research work, and we kind of independently do that research, but then come together and kind of pool our ideas, and then come to a kind of agreement on what out of that pool of research we're going to kind of hone in on and actually create the artworks around. So with a series of works, we will divide them between us, and we more or less get on with each other's set of works within that. But there's always this discussion between us, because of course, having done the research together, we know what each other are trying to achieve within our particular set of artworks. And so if we find something in our own research that we know is going to be relevant to the other one, we'll be plotting things backwards and forwards and discussing creative ideas as well. So it's never a solo creation. It's always a joint creation. It's been a very long time since I was going to say it's been a long time since we both worked independently, but actually I don't think that's ever really happened, because even going way back to when we were children, we were always sitting side by side and looking over each other's shoulders, and I think very often inspiring each other. If one of us was doing we grew up on kind of like traditional fairy tales, and some of our very early artworks are kind of trying to copy, create illustrations for various fairy tales. And if we saw, one of us was doing something on, I don't know, Cinderella or whatever, the other one would suddenly decide, I want to do that as well. So we've always been bouncing ideas off each other and having that crossover, kind of keeping an eye on what each other are doing.
Yeah, it's beautiful paintings, and there's so much intricate details in there. They're all really incredible, fantastic. And so I know we talked about inspiration, and so Benji's, have you both drawn inspiration from anybody, to get to this career where you are? Any inspiration?
Well, I think in terms of people, no, we tend to be inspired by art traditions and art forms, and that spans, anything from Indian miniature painting to Sikh art to, Tudor portraits, Renaissance art, and Art Nouveau, pre-Raphaelites, all of that. And I think in terms of people, it's just literally been the two of us, I think, for the most part, being inspired by each other. And also being each other's critics as well, because, there's a lot that we do within our own works that sometimes you can't see the wood for the trees. And it's really useful to have somebody who's very attuned to, how you work and what you're trying to achieve, to be able to say, well, actually, why don't you try it this way? Or actually, that doesn't work. So, inspirations and critics both is really important. But also, I think, a sense of healthy competition, let me put it that way. So we've always been each other's benchmark, I think. So even at school, if one of us would get a slightly higher grade in an exam, it was kind of the sign that the other one needed to do a bit better, pull their socks up a bit, because we knew that we had the same, potential as each other and the same abilities. And so I remember once when we must have been about, I don't know, maybe 6 or so, and I think you went into the park one day and you found a piece of wood, they'd just been falling from the tree or whatever, and you'd drawn on it and put felt tip on it, and it was in the shape of this little, I think it was a rabbit, wasn't it? Like a rabbit shape. And she brought it home, and immediately I saw this. Of course, I wanted to do something as good as that, so I went off into the park and found myself a piece of wood. I think it was in the shape of a hedgehog. And I came home, and I kind of put eyes on it and little spines on it and made it into a hedgehog. So that's kind of a bit of a competition between us, but at the same time, it's almost we're inspiring each other, not being against each other. Yeah. Encouraging
that's
each
really
other.
Nice. Yeah, I feel like that's so empowering as sisters to inspire each other. That's so nice. Like that's the essence of like women empowerment, to help each other. And obviously you can see that just by inspiring each other, the creations are incredible. So I think that's so nice. It's really like heartwarming as well. You both inspire each other. It's lovely. And there's nothing like good, healthy competition. Right?
Yeah, it's certainly been useful in terms of facing that prejudice together that we've had throughout our career, that united front that we've been able to present. I think if there were just one of us, maybe we would have just conformed to the pressures and crumbled to what society or the art world expected from us. But I think because there were two of us, we did kind of join forces and together we've find that we're trying to forge our way through this very Eurocentric world that we, are working within, and bit by bit trying to chip away at those glass ceilings.
Yeah, incredible. And that's it. It's sticking together that helps, helps you to get to where you want to get to as well. So just lovely. It's a beautiful story that you're both inspiring each other. So Benji's like, recently I saw that you met the Queen. I know it was probably a picture on one of the social media pages. Tell us, how was that? That must have been absolutely incredible to get that level of recognition, to actually meet the Queen. What was that like?
Well, it was a proud moment, I can't lie. I mean, a lot of our work, we deal with empire and colonialism and that kind of anti-perspective on that. But, I think the Queen as a figurehead we have a lot to admire in her as a figurehead and the work that she's done and her sense of duty and responsibility, even if you may or may not agree with the monarchy, but, to give her fair dues. But it was particularly a proud moment because I think that one of the occasions that we had met her was when we were awarded the MBEs. And I think what made it special and why it was such a proud moment for us is because we'd come from a position way back as students as being told that, our work wasn't worth anything, it wasn't relevant to contemporary art, to then being awarded something of that level for our contribution to contemporary art was, I guess, a kind of vindication of our own position and a signal that perhaps we'd, had some success in fulfilling our aims that we set ourselves ever since we'd experienced that prejudice. Yeah. But it's also, I think it was important because when you have those awards, I mean, in one way they're they don't mean anything. We don't take them with us when we die or anything like that, in the wider scheme of things. But at the same time, for society, it's important because it means that you can hopefully instill pride in and inspire other people to do the same thing. If you've been recognised, and people perhaps may, kind of try and take the lead and follow that to fulfil their own potential as well. So I think receiving those awards was a proud moment, but also something that we were hoping might be able to encourage other people that might be facing the similar kind of prejudices that we face to carry on and keep going and, make their mark as well, despite all the obstacles. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, I think it's so inspiring, especially as you said, you faced all these prejudices obviously growing up and wanting to express yourselves through artwork and sort of being held back from that, and then to reach this level and then to get that recognition from the Queen, from royalty, it's such an achievement. And it just shows that once you don't give up on your goal or whatever you want to achieve in life, that you can really get somewhere. So it's really inspiring, Benji. It's incredible. Yeah, it's fantastic. What an achievement. I think it's brilliant. And so Benji, tell me, have you ever had any interesting stories besides meeting the Queen, which I think is incredible, but anything funny or anything funny that's happened throughout your career as artists?
Well, I think there is. You're going to say the same one as me, but going on exhibition in 2005. Yeah. So back in 2005, we had a retrospective exhibition at our Walker Art Gallery in Liverpool, which is the main gallery, in fact, the only national gallery outside of London. And we were there at the opening and intermingling with the visitors. And one couple came up to us, and this was back in the day where I think people were more informed about the surnames of Sikh. So that when we were in school, people didn't realise that that women took the surname Kaur and men Singh. So we've always adopted the name Singh ourselves because in this country, being born and brought up here, it's traditional that on your birth certificate you take your father's surname. So we've always used Singh. So, of course, with our exhibition, we're known as the Singh twins, but we never put our individual names. But anyway, so we were having this conversation with this couple, and the gentlemen, they were all being very complimentary and very excited. And then towards the end of the conversation, the husband turned to us and said, "Oh yes, they're so exciting, but what about the brothers? Are they still alive?"
Oh, God.
Are they must think that the artists were male. And, he was asking, what about the brothers? Are they still alive? But the funny thing was that just behind him His wife, poor thing, she was mortified because she obviously knew that she was talking to the artist. Her husband hadn't clicked. And the funny thing was that right behind him there was a screen showing an interview with ourselves as the artist, talking about our artwork, which he clearly hadn't seen, at that time. But so that was quite funny. We just took it in our stride, really. We just all laughed about it. It was a funny, strange moment.
Yeah, it's sort of really incredible stories. I like the story when you said, people are expecting to see men artists. That's quite funny. And obviously you're standing there going, no, it's us. Our surnames are Singh.
The fact that he thought we had died as well, that was the funniest thing. We said, no, we're very alive.
Yeah, like, no, it's us. Yeah, absolutely. And so Benji's like, there must be people, men and women out there that, maybe are in your position where they feel like, they are interested in art. It could be any passion that they have. Do you have any tips and advice on, how they can persevere through, for their career? Do you have any tips on mindset, how to get through these struggles that you both clearly had, but still you've got through them? You've both become very successful artists. What would you say to the Sangat about, mindset? How can you get through these types of challenges when you're trying to achieve something in life?
Well, I know it sounds like a cliche, but really from our own experience, I think you really have to believe in your own ability and not have people put doubt in your mind that you're capable of achieving things that you want to in life. And I think you have to have, or that what the work you're doing has no value. Yeah. Yes, and I think you just have to persevere and not be too worried about failing either. We've had lots of failures in our career, but you pick yourself up and say you can build on those failures. They can actually be a good thing because they make you more determined, to prove people wrong or to prove yourself that you can actually fulfill, the dreams that you have in life. And as artists, we do get knockbacks. I mean, when we first started, we tried to, maybe naively, tried to present our work to the top galleries in London and having very polite notes back saying, words to the effect that we love your work, but have you tried the ethnic gallery down the road? You have to be quite thick-skinned. You also have to self-promote. Yeah, self-promote yourself. It's not just about waiting for someone to come and discover you. It's a business like any other business, and I think there is the idea that the arts is not something that's generally promoted within our community. Personally, we feel that's a very unfair kind of stereotype because we feel that no parent, if they've got any sense, really wants their child to go into the arts. And when I say into the arts, I'm talking about becoming artists per se, making money from their artwork, because let's not forget there are lots of different fields that people can go into that have a creative foundation that are commercial, commercially viable, and commercial art, and digital design, and all of these other careers that people can go into. I think the path that we've chosen is particularly difficult. To make a success at becoming artists, promoting your own work is a completely different ball game to working for a company that's designing things. But that doesn't mean to say you shouldn't go for it if you've got the passion to do that. But it's always good to have a plan B. I mean, I don't think maybe it's something we would have gone into right away. In terms of, we got a degree, and we had other options, if you like, if the art didn't, transpire, didn't turn out. But also, I think an important message is, and I'm sure this is common sense and everybody knows it, but basically seize every opportunity that comes your way. Don't wait for it to come around again, because it may not come around again. And if you miss that opportunity, it's something that you might regret. And also, you may have a plan set out for yourself in life, but it doesn't always pan out the way that you expect. And that's not always a bad thing either. We never expected to be artists. We never wanted to be artists initially. We had a life in academia, set out for ourselves, and various other options, doctors, whatever it was. And, life doesn't always pan out the way you want, but sometimes it leads you on a path that actually turns out to be a lot better and something that you enjoy a lot more.
Yeah, no, fantastic tips. And it's really good to hear that, I think the main thing from it is perseverance, as you both mentioned, Benjis, is to not give up when you get knocked back, to keep going. And sometimes, is to follow your passion, because you don't know what can come from that. And you've both clearly shown that from your passions, you can have a really successful career. You can achieve, a lot of things in life. So thank you so much for those tips, Benji. I think a lot of people will take benefit from them. And, Benji's, I know you've got this amazing exhibition at the moment in Colchester. Please tell us more about this exhibition and, what type of paintings are there? How long is it on for? And how can people, find you, information on it as well, Benji's?
Well, the exhibition at Colchester is called Slaves of Fashion, and it is about fashion, but actually it's more about the history of empire and colonialism and the modern day legacies of that, in terms of some of the racial prejudice that we experience. We talked about institutional prejudice before, some of the kind of mindsets of West is best, if you like, and having to follow the Western benchmark all the time. But there's also legacies in terms of practices of the past and the colonial past that continue in the present. So by that I mean, one of the very important strands of the exhibition is not just looking at past history. It's also looking at this relationship that comes through very strongly when you look at the history of the empire, between this relationship between trade and consumerism, for example, and slavery. And that's something which, people identify, particularly the history of slavery, is something that people identify with as being something of the past, something that happened in the 1700s or the 1800s. When actually this relationship between trade and conflict and slavery and consumerism is something that's very much still alive in the world that we live in today. The kind of sweatshops in India, poor people are being forced to produce garments very cheaply with, poor working conditions and terrible rates of pay and all the rest of it. And the way that, for example, things are farmed. So you have exploitation of people and resources, whole forests being destroyed so that very often multinational, these big corporations can actually plant huge plantations of cash crops, which are destroying the environment, and they're using pesticides and again using methods of employment that are really against, border on human rights. Well, there are human rights abuses involved in that too. Yeah. But all the themes that we deal with in the exhibition are looked at through the lens of uncovering the history of global trade in Indian textiles. So, I mean, everybody was involved in that in the past. The French, the Dutch, Portuguese, the British, they all wanted a piece of Indian textiles. And that itself, that trade links into all these other aspects that we're talking about, unethical trade and slavery and all of that conflict. And the main works in the show are portrait-based, so it's looking at figures relating to different themes within that whole topic, whether it be certain dyes or places where textiles were produced, types of fabrics, and the politics of that history too. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but and within that whole theme, as with much of our other work, we do try and put the Sikhs, or at least give a focus to where the Sikh community or Punjab community fit within that wider global story. So there are figures, for example, of Dalvinder Singh, who herself had a link. I think we use her to illustrate the theme of cotton fabric, and her link with that is that her grandfather was a cotton merchant. On her mother's side, her grandfather was a cotton merchant, which had links to Liverpool, and Liverpool was one of the main centres of kind of cotton trade, if you like, during the days of the empire and the kind of transatlantic slave trade. So we use her to tell the story of cotton. And she was of course, she's someone that we hugely admire because she was, a suffragette. She fought for the rights of cotton mill, the cotton mill workers, for better kind of conditions. And she did a lot of other social work as well to help, the seamen, for example. Building homes for them, because a lot of the Indian sailors used to come on the ships from India and other parts of the world to Britain, but sometimes abandoned, at the docks in England, and had nowhere to go, and they were destitute. And she was instrumental, for example, in helping to set up homes for those people. So we were lots of things like that. I think we probably don't have time to go into all of them. So anybody who's interested in visiting the exhibition will get a real insight into how our Punjabi Sikh heritage fits into this whole story of global consumerism and how it links to trade and conflict and slavery. So there's something there for everybody. There are these portrait artworks, there's documentary films, there's interactive elements, augmented reality apps where people can really explore the details of some of the artworks, which have lots and lots of stories and symbolism within them. And people can also see some of our creative processes as well. So there are time-lapse videos and samples of some of the painted details that went into the final artworks.
That all sounds incredible. I would encourage the Sangat, please, go down to Colchester, look at Benji's exhibitions. It sounds incredible, and I believe it's on till September?
Yeah, it's on at First Light Gallery, and it's on till September the 11th. And then after that, the exhibition tours to Norwich Castle Museum, where it will be on until the new year, till January. But people can get a glimpse of it already on our social media pages. So if you go to, our Instagram page, the Singh Twins _art, we've got a Facebook page, the Singh Twins, and the YouTube channel. And if they kind of Google in on YouTube, the Singh Twins, there's certain videos and things that come up about not just that exhibition, but other works as well.
Yeah, incredible. I'm hoping to travel down to have a look at your exhibition as well. And I would again encourage you, Sangat, please look at the Singh Twins social media pages and find out about this exhibition. This is an incredible moment for our Sikh culture as well, to have two Sikh women painting and showing us these paintings. So please, encouraging the Sangat to please go down and have a look at this exhibition. It sounds incredible, and so I'll definitely be making a visit as well. But Benji's, it's so nice to hear about everything that you've both achieved as the Singh Twins. It's really inspiring, especially as women of today's society, with all the challenges we have to face. And I know you mentioned them, the prejudices that you had to go through, and all those challenges. As women anyway, we've got day-to-day challenges to get through, but it just shows that when you really put your mind to something, as we've talked about, strength of character to get through these different challenges, that you can achieve anything. You've got to be motivated, inspired, and I think it's incredible. And as we've spoken before, at the Kalgidhar Trust, SAHIB, they do something similar where they help women and encourage them to be successful as well, and to become educated, to help underprivileged women become empowered through the gift of education, through the Train the Teacher program. And so the Train the Teacher program is an initiative which costs £30 a month, which is £1 a day. It's linked to Cambridge University, where they've got the opportunity to train as teachers and then go on to teach at the Agal Academy. So it's an incredible incentive to empower women. And so Benji's, as both academics and artists by profession, why do you think it's so important to empower women through education? How important is this, Benji's?
Well, education is essential, really, to lots of reasons, really. I imagine a lot of these women are in situations where, financially they haven't got the support that perhaps they would need, that maybe some are on the poverty line. Education is really a way of breaking that cycle of, getting out of poverty, for example. It empowers women to be able to, even if it's just in terms of teaching the next generation. Our father always says, educated woman is an educated family. And I really believe that. It's not necessarily even about going off and getting a career and making money. It's also about teaching the next generations life skills and attitudes that they need to success. They need to be successful in life. Also giving yourself a sense of self-worth as well. If people are confident. Yeah, and confidence. Education plays a huge role in that. That kind of that well-being, within. It's not just about learning things. Yeah. Giving you that boost, if you like, with confidence to be able to do things in life that you want to do. And it's also about enabling people, with education, you can do other things. It's not even about helping yourself, but helping society. If you're successful and you generate your own income, you can then share that with other people. So it's not just about individual benefits, it's about community and society as a whole benefiting from that as well.
Yeah, no, you're totally right, Benji. It's about, changing the cycle of poverty, helping women, as you said, become more confident. It enables them to do so many more things in their life. They can achieve so many more things. The doors open for them. Education is really key for women, and I think sometimes we maybe forget that. But obviously, with the Train the Teacher program, it helps them. It helps them to have all the things that you've said. So it's really important for us to help these women to become, educated. So, Benji's, I know we've spoke previously before about, how the trusts work, and they also help underprivileged children with the gift of education. And they do this with value-based education, where they can learn Sikhi values alongside education, which is incredible. So, Benji's, growing up with Sikhi values and, having that, childhood with Sikhi values, what are your views on helping underprivileged children to have that value-based education? Why is it important as well to help children with this education too?
Well, again, education, I think, it's not just about, material well-being, it's also about mental well-being, spiritual well-being, and of course our Sikh faith teaches very firmly that, life is not just about one or the other. It's the secular and it's the sacred. It's the both together that make us complete human beings and equip us with the tools to be able to go out into the world and make a positive difference to the people and the societies around us. And having that spiritual upbringing also makes you much more grounded as a person. Success is something that can go to your head or, make you feel arrogant or whatever it is. You always have to have something to pull you back down to earth and give you that balance in life. And our Sikh heritage is full of so many lessons for life as well. It's not something that's about going off in the wilderness and meditating on God. It's about learning about how to be a good citizen. And I think that moral upbringing and that grounding is so important to instill, particularly in children, because that's the age where they're going to take that on board and they're going to value that very often more than adults. Sometimes you try and teach things to an adult and they're already set in their ways and, that you can't really get through to them. But with children, it's an ideal time to be able to instill in them this value of the spirituality, of our existence, as well as the importance of running after materialism and careers and finance and all the rest of it, which of course we all need to survive. Yeah. But the spiritual should direct the material life, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
but I
absolutely.
think children, a lot of these children, I'm sure they won't get support anywhere else. The support that they're getting from yourselves is the thing that's really going to make a difference to their life.
Yeah, Benji, like these children, they come from backgrounds where, they're underprivileged. So they may be orphans' children, farmers' children, they don't have the correct financial background. So they don't have any means of ways of getting an education. And the Kalgidhar Trust do this amazing initiative to help them. Again, this is £13 a month. The links will be on the screen. You can look at www.educatetosave.com and there you can see, how you can help underprivileged children to have an education, to become educators. Benji's have said it's really important to have, value-based education so that you have these values alongside your education to become good citizens, as you've said, Benji. So it's incredible, but also to help women as well that are going through this and help empower them. And so, Benji, I just wanted to ask, do you have any special message on women empowerment that you'd like to tell the Sangat and why they should sponsor the Train the Teacher program?
Well, I think we just need to go. Sorry, that's okay. I think we need to go back to the roots of what we're taught as Sikhs. Our Gurujis were firm believers in education and equality of women. And, they were believers in that for a reason, for no other reason other than following, what they teach us and believing that the path that they've set for us within Sikhism is something that's of value. We also need to identify with that and help in any way we can. And speaking from our own experience, we've talked about our success and our career and this, that and the other, but to be quite honest, none of this would have been possible without the support of our own family. And we've been so fortunate that we have had a family from day one to be able to support us morally, socially, psychologically, financially. You know, if we hadn't have been for that, I don't think we would have achieved our dreams and had the success that we have today. And our situation is a privileged situation to begin with, compared to these women and children in India. How much more help do they need to, you know, be able to change their lives around for the better? So we know for £1 a day, why would you not? You know, the amount of impact that can have on a person's life is a very small, you know, price to pay. We often think about success about being something that you achieve yourself. You know, you have achieved success, but also success that we believe can be measured by what you can achieve for others. And I think it's not just about what you achieve for yourself.
Yeah, I think we forget that. And as you said, Benji, £1 a day, price of like, I don't think, you know, it's like a price of a coffee, a cup of tea. And just imagine that £1, you know, you are contributing is actually changing a person's life. That is such a huge thing. You're actually sponsoring someone and you're changing their life to become better. You know, that's such a humble and honourable thing to do in life. And, you know, as we've said, please look at www.educatetosave.com website. There's numbers, there's on the screen that you can call us. And, you know, if you do want to sponsor a woman for Education Train the Teacher program, or help an underprivileged child, you know, it's such an incredible thing to do. And, you know, if you look at the website, it will show you how you can sponsor a child, how you can sponsor a teacher. There are pictures of the children as well. It's really nice. And they also give you letters every month, and they tell you how they're getting on as well. And you do feel a sense of fulfillment that I'm actually helping somebody's life. And as you said, Benji's like, our life here is a privilege, you know, to have education, to, you know, have financial backing, family support. But these people, you know, that are in India, they don't have the family support sometimes, or even, well, definitely the financial backing. So we can help them. We can help to make their lives better. So thank you for saying that, Benji, because I think that was a very important thing to mention, that, you know, we are in a position where we can help.
Yeah. I mean, not at all. I think the Sangat may be the only, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but just to finally say that the help that the Sangat is able to give may be the only help that these people ever get in their lives. So I think that's important to hold on to.
Yeah, no, thank you so much, Benji. Really appreciate you supporting us. You know, it's so important that we get the message out there to please help underprivileged children. Please help the Train the Teacher program, so that we can, you know, empower other women, just as the Singh twins are. They are, you know, essence of women empowerment, and we can help, you know, create other women to become empowered as well. You know, we're coming to the end of the show now, Benji, so I just wanted to say a huge thank you to you both for your support. It's been incredible to learn about your journey as artists, you know, growing up and, you know, facing prejudice, facing challenges to become artists, and then, you know, going through that journey, but then getting to the point where you've actually met the Queen, and, you know, that level of recognition. You're getting doctorates from universities, you're getting the level of recognition is incredible. And that to me shows that don't give up, you know, have that perseverance, and, you know, you can get to where you've got to. So a huge thank you to you both. It's been incredible to learn about your journey, and, you know, thank you so much for your support with the Kalgidhar Trust. We really appreciate it. Thank you.
I think we need to thank you, and I'm sure on behalf of everyone that's listening or watching, that the thank really needs to go to the Trust, because what we've achieved and many people achieve in our daily lives is nothing compared to what this Trust is doing. And I'm sure they have so many challenges too that they have to overcome to do the work that they do. So thank you, in fact, and thank you for inviting us. Yeah, the Trust is the inspiration to us. Yeah. Carry on the good work.
Oh, thank you, Benji. Yeah, and we hope that with our show, you know, we are encouraging the Sangat and everything that we've talked about, that they will feel that they will want to help other women and other children as well. So again, thank you so much. You know, we really appreciate you coming on. And message to the Sangat is please look at all the links, www.educatetosave.com website. There you can find out all the information about how you can sponsor Train the Teacher program. It's £30 a month. You can even, you know, sponsor as a family and put towards the £30 every month. So, you know, there are other ways that you can help. You can donate. Please look at how you can help children as well. Again, on the website, www.educatetosave.com. And again, there are links, phone numbers on the screen. Please call them. Please help us. Again, thank you so much to the Singh twins. Thank you so much for coming on our show. We really appreciate it. We look forward to, you know, all of your further work as well. So yeah, thank you so much again. And yeah,
so it's been our pleasure. Really appreciate you talking to us.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Benjis. And again, to the Sangat, thank you so much. Thank you, Benjis. And to the end of the show, Vajika Kakasa.